Yo, what's good? Welcome to the installment of my hip hop rants. I know it's been a couple of years since I've done one, but it's just I've been seeing a lot of shit in hip hop today that's been pissing me off lately. So I just there's some stuff I need to get out of my chest. I might offend some people. Don't take it the wrong way. This is my opinion. You know what to do. Just tell your 2 cents in this comment box. But the topics I want to talk about today is I want to talk about classic albums because and the reason why I say or I should just say the word classic. And the thing is, like, a lot of people like to use the word classic way too loosely. And the reason why I say that is because, like, Kendrick Lamar, he came out with an album called "To Pimp a Butterfly." He it came out, I think, like last week or a week and a half ago or whatever. I did hear the album. I do like it, but I don't think it's a classic in my opinion. That's just me. I'm not the biggest Kendrick Lamar fan, so maybe it does show like a little bias I have against him. But I do think the dude is talented. I respect his hustle, his hunger, and stuff like that. But I just can't deal with dude's voice. I can't deal with his voice. It bothers me. You know what I'm saying? I've always said that even when I heard his Section 80 mixtape that I heard back in 2012, it's his voice. I just wasn't too crazy about his voice. Good Kid, Mad City is the same thing. Didn't like the production on the album. Um, I didn't like the beats. I didn't like the beats. The whole oh my god, his voice is it just annoys the shit out of me. But when I heard To Pimp a Butterfly, I was like, oh, okay, he stepped it up as far as the production. Like, what I liked about the album was that it had like he kind of delved into classic West Coast hip hop, like early '90s West Coast hip hop, and he delved into like jazz and P funk and stuff like that. Like the sound like classic West Coast production, that's reminiscent of like DJ Quick, Ant Banks, people like that. Not G Funk, but kind of like it's I guess G Funk, but without the synthesizers, if that makes sense. Like I said, like DJ Quick and Ant Banks and people like that. Um, but to call it a classic, I don't know. I just think that's a little asinine in my opinion because the album just came out. Like you guys need to give it um time to like let it marinate a couple years or something like that. And what really grinds my fucking gears about the album is that I'm seeing people on Facebook, even on social media, even even in mainstream media, saying like, "Oh, this is the best hip hop album of all time." It it knocks off all the other classic albums, and I've seen people saying like, even as far as like even the people like I heard people saying like, oh, even some of the albums that people call classic from the '90s are not even real classics. Like just because they heard the Kendrick Lamar album, now like those other albums they used to say was classics are now classics now just because they heard the album. That is so fucking asinine. Like for one, okay, I'll give you I'll give Kendrick this. Like he did the whole Tupac interview. Like Tupac was like well, he was like they had like a Tupac clip like where he's asking the questions, and then and then Kendrick Lamar is giving out the answers and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool, but that's not the first time people did like interview type of style of rap. If you listen to KRS One, he did a song Questions and Answers. He had a song called that. It was actually on the Boogie Down Production Section Violence song album. Excuse me. He did a song Questions and Answers. Sadat X, he did a song called The Interview with Regina Hall. Yes, the actress Regina Hall. He used to go out with her back in the day. Um, that was something like he did that. You had a song called Interview with a Vampire with Razzcast off his second album, Assassination. So is that's like really nothing new. Like I hate to burst people's bubbles. I know I'm gonna upset a lot of people. I don't really give a fuck because I'm just getting tired of people's um perceptions on certain things without them like kind of like educating themselves first before they do that because that's what I'm seeing a lot. I've seen a lot of people like they just now getting into hip hop and they think because they have the internet You know, they research and they know every fucking thing. That's not the case. You know what I mean? You need to learn your history, and I'll get to that later on. Um, you know, the whole, and I know some people are saying like, oh, he's doing the whole jazz thing, the scatting and blah blah blah. Again, nothing new. AC Alone was doing that back in 1991 when he was with Fresh Freestyle Fellowships. His whole stilo was the whole jazz spoken word type of thing. You know what I mean? He was doing that in 91, and people, that shit flew over people's heads. People like, oh my god, like what is this? Like, you know, people, I feel like AC Alone does not get recognition that he deserves. And he's from LA, you know what I'm saying? But because of his whole stilo, people kind of pigeonhole him and stuff like that. And I understand the whole spoken word thing is not for everybody. It's not even for me. But if it's done well, you know, I fucks with it. Like I said about when I did my one of my CD classes with Professor Griff, his whole stilo is a whole spoken word. Same with Sister Soldier. It's not really my thing, but if it's done right, I fucks with it, you know. And I feel like AC Alone does it the best. You know what I mean? With Professor Griff, I kind of feel like it feels a little bit too forced. He yells a lot, and I love MCs that yell, but it kind of seems very forced. But getting back to Kendrick Lamar, like, you know, like stuff like that, and then I like the fact that he, like I said, the production is what worked for him, and the dude could spit. You know, I give him that. And I respect, like I said, his hunger, his dedication to the game. But it's just like, it's just his voice I can't really get into. And what really pissed me off is because I was reading an article by Hip Hop DX and Hip Hop Wired, where they got the original where his Hip Hop DX got the original article from, saying, oh, 15 artists, rappers that never made classic albums. And he named some artists like Busta Rhymes, Method Man, Ludacris, and stuff like that. And that when I saw those, the first two that I just mentioned, that shit really pissed me off, because to say that Busta Rhymes never came out with classic albums and Method Man, are you fucking kidding me? Method Man with the first two Tikal albums, and whatchamacallit, and the Method Man, the Redman Blackout album, those are not classic albums? Are you fucking kidding me? The nigga could spit, he could rap over any type of beat, and he's still Method Man. I mean, Method Man Tikal, like that whole dirty basement vibe of that shit. Nobody was really RZA beats made by RZA and Fourth Disciple, because Fourth Disciple did that song What the Blood Clot. But anyways, getting back to that, like that whole basement vibe of the beats, and they didn't really have the best equipment, but that's what made those albums the way it did. You know what I'm saying? But to say that they're not classics is pretty asinine. And you kind of gotta wonder, like, how old is the writer that wrote that? Even Method Man's second album, Tikal 2000, Judgment Day, where without the whole album had like that post-apocalyptic vibe to it. He was talking about the Illuminati, and people didn't really know about the Illuminati. It went over people's heads. That was something new. You know, some people, like, you know, even though he wasn't the first dude to talk about the Illuminati, but, you know, you had people like Sons of Man, Onyx, Mobb Deep was saying that throughout the 90s about the Illuminati, but people weren't listening. Even Tragic Gaddafi has a song called Illuminati. Look it up on YouTube. He was talking about how, you know, like, you know, just shit that's happening now. He was talking about in 97. Like, he was talking about how the internet's going to run everybody's lives, and, you know, people going to put chips in people's fingers and stuff like that. And, you know, stuff like that is happening right now. And he's talking about that. He was talking about that in 97, 98. But it went over people's heads. And to say Busta Rhymes never came out with a classic album, I mean, this album right here is a fucking classic, because the whole theme of the album was a concept where he talks about, mind you, this came out in 96, so in 96 he was talking about how in 4 years the world's gonna come to the end, because, you know, you remember, like, back in 99 they had the whole Y2K shit, like the world's gonna come to end. You had movies like Deep Impact and saying like the whole world's gonna come to end. A lot of people believe that, and I know a guy that moved down here from Chicago back in 2099 because he thought world was gonna end, like the computers, and they were saying like how the computers are gonna blow up and all that shit. And he moved down from Chicago all the way to Florida. So that right there, and it just kind of shows you the album. Like, not to say that you heard the album, but like that whole Y2K shit, it was really serious. You know what I'm saying? If you were born around that time, then you wouldn't understand it. But people that was born before that, like that was born like in the 80s and 70s and under, you guys would know what I'm talking about. And then like his first four albums, like the whole concept about the world coming to the end. So, and that was original. Nobody was really doing that. And you gotta understand too, Busta Rhymes wasn't really known to do classic albums. I mean, not to do a solo track. You know what I mean? Because yeah, people were saying like he was the best person to out of the whole leaders of New School. Everybody was saying that was like Dinko and Milo were whack, or Charlie Brown were whack. But Busta Rhymes obviously was like the best member of the group. But when people was kind of like dissing the fact that he was about to make a solo album because he was only good with doing features, that's what people thought. But when he came out with this album, it shut a lot of people's mouths up. And this is a prime example, man. This is a classic, timeless album. I don't care what people say. The beats were original and all that stuff like that. And I just think that people need to go listen to certain albums and give albums a chance for it to be a classic. Don't just because you heard out, it's a classic. That's not the case. Like, you know, you have to give it a perfect reason why it's a classic. That's it about classic albums. Evolution in hip hop. I fucking hate that shit. It fucking pisses me off. You know, I'm seeing a lot of MCs now. You know, their interpretation of evolution in hip hop is like, they're gonna collaborate with a pop artist and then try to go into their realm and make songs like that, and that shows them, I'm evolving. That's not evolution. That's like you trying to. That's evolution. It's just you trying to be young again. You're not young. You're 40 years old. Rap like an MC. Like, rap what you do best. What we known you for. You see what I'm saying? You don't hear that in other genres like of music. You don't hear that. You don't hear Slade trying to, because hip hop right now is the biggest, is the most popular genre out now, and you don't see Slayer trying to be a hip hop art. You don't try to see them doing hip hop music. No, I would be pissed off. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? I wouldn't want them to do Metallica. You don't see that, but it seems like with hip hop, people try to be too eclectic, and it doesn't fit them. It's not for everybody. Not everybody could do that. You see what I'm saying? Like, yo, just stay your lane. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's cool to try different things, but as long as you know, you give a piece of you that we all know, but then you blend it with certain things, and then as long as you execute it well, I'm all for that. I'll give you an example of an MC that has evolved, and I feel like a lot of people kind of slept on this album. This album is Cormega's Mega Philosophy album. It came out last year. I feel like this is a prime example of somebody that has evolved, because when this album came out, a lot of people kind of like dissing it because they were saying like it was too preachy, blah blah blah. People wanted Cormega to go back to his old shit, you know, going back to the Testament, the realness, you know, stuff like that. But you gotta understand, Cormega, and if you listen to his interview, he talks about, yo, I'm not in the streets no more. I don't live in Queensbridge. I don't sell drugs. And he said, like, if he was to sell drugs today, he wouldn't know how to do it. That's what he said. You gotta respect that. He's in a different mind state right now. Like, you know, he's trying to, like, he's all about black empowerment and, you know, just trying to uplift people. And I could respect that, because coming from where he came from in life, he's trying to get away from that. You see what I'm saying? And he talks about, like, the ills of the black community. He talks about the ills of the industry. He puts people on to what goes on to the industry so you don't get caught up like he did. To me, that's evolution. I mean, just some of the stuff he talks about. He talks about the song Industry. I mean, self-explanatory. He has a song called Valuable Lessons, where he's talking about he talks about his personal life with his baby mother and stuff like that. He talks about, like, real grown man shit. That's evolution. But he's still Cormega. He still could spit. He still have good ear for beats. Now, granted, some of the beats in here are not the best Lost Professor beats, but he still got it. He still has it. This is a prime example of somebody that he's evolved. And a lot of people saying this shit is too preachy, blah blah blah. But yet, when he talks about black empowerment, oh, it's too conscious, it's too preachy. But then yet, people want to cry about this whole Ferguson shit, which, again, shouldn't have happened, or the Eric Garner, oh, these fucking white cops and they're killing black people. But then when you have an artist like him, he's talking about shit like that, people don't want to hear that. People don't want to hear that. Or they want to talk about when he's talking about black on black crime, people kind of like turn a blind eye. That shit gotta stop. That's very asinine. It's very ignorant. You know what I'm saying? Hip hop fans to me are very fickle because they're not. Hip hop fans are some of the most unloyal fans in the world because, like, if you like somebody, and as soon as they switch up, they're like, oh fuck, I don't want to listen to them no more because they do a certain style. Like, that's so asinine to me. You know what I'm saying? I could say it's one thing if you say like, okay, I don't like that album, I don't fuck with that album, but I still fuck with you. I fucks with you because you still put out, decent music. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I just think people. I don't know. That shit right there pisses me off. And that's it about the evolution of hip hop. Sample and cover songs. Everybody knows about the whole Pharrell, Blurred Lines, and the Marvin Gaye thing. The whole Marvin Gaye, Pharrell, Robin Thicke lawsuit that's going on, which I think is bullshit because people are saying like, oh, because the thing is like I heard both songs. They do sound a little similar, but the melodies are a little bit different, in my opinion. Because, let's be real, like, everybody gets inspired from somebody. You see what I'm saying? Everybody got inspired by somebody. Because people always say, like, oh, he sampled this. How do you know that he sampled that? Like, that he didn't, how do you know he sampled? Like, what if it just happened to come out the same? Like, they're sampling, like the Gay family, they sued them based on feel, and that right there is very dangerous because it took you guys that long for you to sue them. Like, I don't know why they wait until a couple years to sue them. That shit makes no sense to me. And then they'll say like, oh, sampling is not original, and I mentioned this in the last hip hop rant that I did, that people sampling, they're not musicians and stuff like that, which I disagree because I feel like, if you could manipulate a sound and make it sound different from the original source, that's original. That's fucking dope. Cover songs are not original because you're just using another person's song and making your interpretation, and they're gonna say, oh, but you're using a guitar, you're using musical instruments like a guitar or a saxophone. Okay, anybody can have a fucking saxophone. It doesn't make you a musician. Is what you do with that instrument is what makes you dope as a musician. See what I'm saying? And that shit right there is crazy. And if people want to always scream about, oh, we want original music. But then when you get the original music, people fucking scared like, oh, that shit is whack. Oh, it doesn't sound what's popping in the radio. People don't know what the fuck they want, and it just pisses me off. People don't know what they want, man. This shit kills me right there. But like I said, cover songs, like I said, I like some of them, but most of them I don't like. I have a distaste for them. Because like I said, like sometimes like the original song was good enough. We don't need a cover song. If you execute it well, then I fucks with it. I'll give you a prime example of a dope cover song. The song by Tony Braxton, "Unbreak My Heart." There's a dancehall version by a Jamaican singer. Her name is Pam Hall. It's on one of the Strictly Best album. One of the Strictly Best compilation albums. A dancehall compilation album. It's a series that came out in the '90s. Well, she did her cover version of "Unbreak My Heart" by Tony Braxton. That joint came out like in '96. Pam Hall's version came out, I believe, in '97, a year later. I like Pam Hall's version better because it has like a more nice vibe to it. yeah, then that's cool. But it seems like when it comes to hip hop, you know, when it comes to the whole sampling thing, um, let me see how much time I got left. I'll try to hurry this up. When it comes to the sampling thing, people kind of like frown upon it because they's like, oh, you're taking somebody else's stuff and making it yours. But what's the difference with doing cover songs? They say, oh, but they paying homage. But then how do you know that the producers that sample are not paying homage to the to the people that they sample? And how do you know that they're not paying those people the people that they sample their residuals and stuff like that? How do you know that? And to me, I hate to say it, but it boils down to racism, because let's be real, you see a lot of these fucking racism and ageism, because it kind of shows like and I hate to say it, but a lot of baby boomers, they say shit like that, and it's just like, dude, like you guys are so stuck in they're so stuck in their ways. They don't try to see the big picture in certain. They don't keep an open mind. You see what I'm saying? And my thing is too is like, I feel like record labels should have sample budget. They should have budgeting for sampling, or do some shit like how De La Soul did. There was a documentary called Copyright Criminals, and there was a segment where Mace or Dave from De La Soul was saying like when they was making Stakes is High, the record label they was under, I believe they were under Epic Sony Records at the time in '96 when they came out with Stakes is High, that the record labels actually gave them a list of artists that they could sample from, and the album came out the way it did because of that. And I think record labels should do that again. I think they should do that. You know what I'm saying? And that album came out dope, and it came out the way it did, because if the record label didn't do that, maybe the album would have been as good. Maybe it would have came out a little bit different. But I love how the album came out. The whole concept was dope, and I love that. I think people need to get over the whole sampling thing. And yeah, okay, you go buy a keyboard from Guitar Center or Sweetwater, Sam Ash, that already has preset sounds. Oh, but that's no, it's not, because somebody put those in there, so it doesn't make it original. It's somebody that sounds that they made themselves, and they put it into the fucking keyboard, and you're using their sounds. So it's nothing. So that kills that whole sampling part. You see what I'm saying? So just get over the whole sampling thing. Like, yo, it's here to stay. I'm still sampling to the day I die. I don't give a fuck. I think the gay family is just being fucking greedy. And what's funny too, because that same album, that song that they Pharrell supposedly sampled from, that album, the song that album came from was produced by Leon Ware. You don't hear nothing about Leon Ware. It's all about Marvin Gaye, but people don't think like that. But I guess it's the producer in me that sees little things like that. But that's neither here to say. And there's times where like James Brown wasn't really paying the band artists. You see what I'm saying? People don't talk about that. See what I'm saying? So all your favorite singers from the 60s and 70s, they were all fucking good saints. Like people put them out to be. You know what I mean? But they see, when it comes to hip hop, they see like, oh, they sampling, blah blah blah. These guys from the hood that sample, they can't do this and do that. I'm just not gonna get into all of that, but you guys get where I'm coming from with that. And that's about the sampling part. Last thing I want to talk about is people's disrespect towards hip hop veterans. People don't respect them. People just tell them like, oh, you're too old to rap, and you have to do this. You have to stick with the times. You have to make music that's relevant to today. And I hate that fucking word relevant, because like I'll give you a prime example. Like somebody like Coogee Rap. To me, my favorite MC of all. I think he's the best MC of all time. I don't care what nobody says. The multi-syllable lyricism the flow that he did. He raps fast, but you can still understand him. The whole mobster gangster lifestyle. He kind of brought that into not the gangster, but like the mob type of stuff. He kind of brought that into the game, but then Raekwon kind of mastered that, and then people kind of look at Raekwon as that. Like he kind of mastered that whole thing, but a lot of people were influenced by Cool's rap. Whether you believe it or not, Big Pun, Nas, a whole bunch of people. You see what I'm saying? And what pisses me off, I've seen some of these veterans, like, for them to be relevant, they have to collaborate with these new fucking knows, like A$AP Rocky. It's like they're trying to stay young, so they have to collaborate with these niggas. And it's like, no, that shit is whack. I don't respect that, man. Like, and it kind of tarnishes their music that we like him for. You see what I'm saying? Like I'll give you an example. Like Prodigy, when he came out of jail, his music was kind of, to me, and it's not as good as when it first came, as when he, before he went to jail, because he was saying in an interview as soon as he came out that he had tunnel vision when he was making music in the 90s. I hate to say it, it's gonna sound ignorant, but I liked it when he had tunnel vision because he made better music. And what I mean by tunnel vision, he said like he won't collaborate with certain artists because he put himself in a pedestal, and rightfully so, because in the 90s he was one of the illest spitters in the game at the time. He was that dude. You see what I'm saying? But now, like, you know, everybody's trying to be friendly, and there's no competition. You see what I'm saying? Like, people, and when Joe Budden not dissed Method Man, but he's like, oh, I'll eat Method Man up. At the time, I was kind of pissed off because, like, I'm biased because I'm a Method Man fan, but looking back at it, Joe Budden is just he's just, the hip hop in him is just saying like, yo, let's battle. He's just trying to keep hip hop alive. And granted, I'm not the biggest Joe Budden fan, but now I see where he was coming from. But people took it the wrong way, blah 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 blah. But I don't know. The legends, these veterans gotta stop. Just be you, man. Don't worry about what these fucking young kids think. Like, oh, you're not relevant because you're not making songs, like, you know, like Tyga and Lil Wayne and Kevin Gates and all that shit. You don't have to make shit like that. Just be you, man. If you get calls from overseas to do tours for people making classic songs, you're relevant in my opinion. And that's it. That's all I have to say. I'm pissed off. Let me know what you guys think. That's it. Stay tuned for more videos. Peace.